Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Computer America Show. We don't know where Charles is, but hopefully we'll find him. And just going into the chat room, saying hello to everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi. And where's... So, you know, we'll do that and just see here. Hold on. Charles is not here, and I don't know what to do, so maybe you can have Ben get ready for the second hour. Charles is done
2 minutes until showtime.
All right, if Ben is home, see what the... RedSeal Networks. All right, bye. Yeah. Well, I contacted my backup co-host.
Well, it's always good to have a spare or a backup.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I really would have wanted him. I wanted him to be in because he's a certified ethical hacker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and I just realized.
1 minute until showtime.
What did you just realize?
The number you were calling me from. I didn't realize you were in Nashville, and my phone rang, and I was at an event earlier that I had to leave early for this.
That was me.
And I apologize. I didn't realize that was you. Yeah. That's my mistake.
That's okay. Not a problem. This is the first time this has ever happened where Charles has not been here.
Did you want to flip it to a different time?
No, it's live. We can't do anything like that. This is it. So I'll see if he shows up, and we'll go from there.
Well, it's possible I could provide some extra technical details if you're interested.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we might have to call upon you to do that. And anyway, we're going to go start it, and we'll see if he shows up or if he's just doing a complete, total no-show. Anyway, everybody.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman. And I don't know how to say this, but where is Charles Tendell? My goodness, I know he's getting ready to leave for tomorrow, but he knew that we were here, and I don't know where he is. So we'll do the show. I've already put out a call to a backup co-host who may or may not show up, and, but at least we've got a good program planned for you, and I just might have to, take the whole thing. Charles is a certified ethical hacker, and one of the reasons I wanted him here, especially tonight, is because of the subject matter. We're going to be talking about Heartbleed, and not only the Heartbleed itself, but the technology behind it, and why there was such a huzzah about this particular piece of malware, and why so many people have reacted to it, and what's being done, and just kind of talk about this in general and what can be done in the future, or what will prevent people from doing something similar to this. I mean, some of the people were coming some of the experts were talking about Heartbleed and saying that this was like the worst possible thing that could have ever happened, and this coming from people of authority, and you kind of had to make you sit up and take notice. So that's one of the reasons I wanted Charles here tonight, because he is, as I said, a certified ethical hacker and very much into this. However, he is nowhere at this point. Don't know where he is. Put calls into him and have not got some messages back from him. So I don't know what's going on. So in the meantime, we'll continue to see if he will show up in the live interactive streaming page that we have going. That's where he appears, and then we conduct the interview. It is Thursday, of course. Tomorrow night it's going to be Friday, and we are going to have. That's the debut of Spider-Man 2, which I'm actually looking forward to. Probably won't see it till Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, it's Red Alert tonight. Jack is in the chat room, and you're correctly. I'll just say hi, Jack, to him. But we're going to move forward and just see how things come along. Obviously, he must have a really good explanation. I mean, it's got to be, because when he couldn't make it, you know what he would do? He would call into the show, the 347-884-8881, and we would see what happened. Now, hold on. I've got someone on the phone here. What's going on? Go ahead. What's going on?
Ben is with Aaron, and Aaron, could you guys see Aaron's computer?
Okay, we'll do that. All right. Well, we'll have another possibility here. So I'm going to try to go to my co-host and see if I can get him. Now, this is my substitute co-host, and we'll see if we can get him on the air with us tonight. But so far it shows that he's offline. And let me see if he's here. Are you there? Sorry about this. I know this is scintillating radio, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the technology gods do what they do. And I'm not seeing Aaron on Skype, so I don't know what to do. He is. I don't see him on Skype, so I can't get him into this. I don't see him here. Okay, all right, good enough. Anyhow, let's start the interview because we do have a lot to talk about. And tonight we're going to be joined by RedSeal Networks as we discuss Heartbleed and the technology that encrypts web sessions between computers and websites that could have allowed attackers to access encryption keys, usernames, passwords, and other confidential information stored on computers or mobile devices. I told you this is pretty major stuff. And all without leaving a trace, which makes this thing even more spooky. Nearly 75% of websites rely on the technology, so the effect still might be very widespread. And here with us is Brandon Hoffman. Brandon is actually in New York tonight, and he is the Senior Director for Consulting, Engineering, and Business Development at RedSeal Networks. Brandon, welcome to Computer America. How are you?
Thank you, Craig. How are you?
Hi, how are you? And welcome to the show. And I'm sorry for the topsy-turvy stuff here, but we're going to try to see if we can I just see Aaron has appeared, so I'm going to add him to the call here and see if this helps. And we'll see if we can get him in on the action. Hey, Aaron, are you there? Or Ben? Is this Ben? Okay, he's connected, but I'm not hearing Ben for some reason, so he'll work that out. And we'll figure out why I'm not hearing Ben. So in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about Heartbleed and what it is and why it is so important.
Sure. Yeah, so Heartbleed essentially, aside from when my first girlfriend broke up with me, it's basically a bug in the way that companies secure the communication. So when you're online and you're on a secure website, you'll see it says HTTPS, and you'll see a padlock in the address bar there.
Right.
And essentially, the SSL library on the back end is what's providing that protection. For those people out there that are more technical, it's a bug in OpenSSL, which is an open library of SSL, and it affects servers that run SSL connections. We found out later that this SSL library was included in some hardware products to secure more corporate communication. So that's why it's becoming such a big deal.
Okay. Now, I'm very familiar with when you go to a security website, you go to your bank, for example, instead of seeing HTTP : you see HTTPS colon, and that always has been, and a little padlock appears, and that's always been a reassurance to me and to most people that the website that we're looking at is a secure one, right?
That's right.
And so the big hoopla about this Heartbleed is that evidently they found a way around that?
Well, essentially what they did is there was a bug in the way that SSL responded to something called Heartbeat to make sure that your session stayed alive. So the way that this works is when you log into a secure website, it creates a session, and that session is encrypted, and that's what the SSL library is doing. And in order to keep that session open and secure, it uses something called a Heartbeat. And this bug in the implementation of that Heartbeat protocol is what allowed people to essentially steal data from the server's memory.
Okay, and that's where the term Heartbleed comes from, because there's that's sort of like the little play on words there. Instead of a heartbeat, it's Heartbleed.
Yeah, so it was Heartbeat, that's the protocol, but the way that this hack actually works is you send it a request for more memory than is contained, and it spills out its memory contents like it's bleeding, and so that's where Heartbleed came from.
Right. Now I hear Ben in the background. Ben, are you there?
Oh, you can hear that. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Okay, well, Ben is my substitute co-host.
Emergency co-host.
Emergency
just
co-host. Right. And he's just joining us. And Ben, we've already started with RedSeal Networks. Brandon Hoffman is here. He's the Senior Director of Consulting and Engineering and Business Development at RedSeal. And he's here talking about, the Heartbleed. Now, did you hear much, Ben, about Heartbleed? And
I heard that I had to change everything I've ever put into the internet. So, which I have not done. And I probably won't do until it directly affects me. But I heard everyone had to change their password. But that's the only thing I know about it.
Okay. Now hold on just a moment, because now I think we've got Charles Tendell. Charles, is that you?
That is me. I am running behind. We left the house and we were trying to get a hotel for our trip. And I am running behind, but I'm getting set up, and I will be videoing in here shortly. Okay, well, we're going to drop this right now. I've got Ben filling in, but as soon as you come back on, we'll continue on. Okay. So we'll see. Okey-dokey.
We'll see in a bit. All right. So it is the emergence I've been doing this for 25 years, and I have to say this is a first. That we're both of my co-hosts. So Brandon, you should feel honored about this.
I do feel I have multiple hosts.
Yeah, my multiple hosts. But Ben's going to stay with me at least till Charles gets in online. And but yeah, Ben reflects basically what a lot of people thought. They said, they kept warning people that you need to change all of your passwords, and you have to reset up everything, because
they didn't even specify. Sometimes when you hear these hacks or whatever you want to call it, these exploits, they say, okay, everyone who's an Amazon customer, you're gonna have to go change your password if you ever use Amazon or saved your credit card or whatever, or Bank of America or whoever else got hacked. With Heartbleed, it was just everything. Don't even bother trying to figure out who got hacked. Just everyone for everything, change your passwords, or at least that's what that's what was told to me.
Now, what is that realistic, Brandon? I mean, or is that basically someone just throwing up throwing a baby out with the bathwater? Oh, you have to change all your passwords for everything, all your sites.
Well, the real challenge is, the reason it's kind of a shotgun approach is we just don't know what SSL library anybody's using. It's not typically public knowledge. OpenSSL is of course open source, so it's free to use. It's a free implementation of technology that does normally cost some money, and so a lot of websites use it. There's no central place to go that enumerates, all these sites, this site and this site and that site are using SSL. Typically what we find is financial institutions, a lot of time they're using private SSL libraries, of course, for this reason. But because there's no way to know on the back end, unless a company tells you that they're using OpenSSL, it's safer to say you've got to change them all, because we just don't know.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's get to a little bit more specific. I mean, who does this affect, and what can people and organizations do to protect themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really does affect everybody, consumers, computer users, as we talked about, all organizations, essentially, that have technology infrastructure that are leveraging any type of SSL. So if they're doing a virtual private networking, that's really important for them to realize that the keys that encrypt those sessions could have been stolen using this attack. So it's kind of very widespread, which is why, of course, it made such big news.
Yeah, do you think it was? Do you think that was a chicken? You know, the sky is falling kind of a reaction to something like this. I mean,
well, I think it kind of was a little bit. I mean, because we don't know, like I said earlier, you know, where it is, how widespread it is, but because this technology is relied on so heavily, it's really one of the basic components that comprises security on the internet. And that's why everybody was so concerned. So,
okay, so there was maybe a potential. I mean, it's like, oh, I don't know, you hear someone jiggling, you know, in the middle of the night, your locked front door, and you know that it's locked, but you know.
Well, to use that analogy, it sounds like the person jiggling the keys and jiggling your front door sounds like they have the key in and they just unlocked your deadbolt. It was that kind of, you know. They had the potential to take any information they wanted. It's just I don't know, and I don't know if our guests would know what was actually stolen during this vulnerability.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's really 4 different areas of information that could have been stolen. Essentially, the first thing is what's called primary key material, and what that is essentially the certificates and the encryption keys that are used to actually secure these sessions. Secondarily, which is what most of the consumers out there listening will care about, is the username and passwords and the session keys. And the reason that's so important is because they can use that information to decrypt past encrypted sessions. So if, for example, there was a hacker or an adversary out there recording web sessions, even though they were encrypted, he couldn't do anything with them. Now, if he got a hold of those keys, he could go back and decrypt previous sessions. So that's what also makes it dangerous. The 4th thing is protected services, email, instant messaging, getting into that type of information. That's all stored in server memory. If it was stored at the time of the attack, that information could be obtained. And then the final thing, which is really not the big one, is technical details of the implementation, which could be used for further attacks down the road.
Mm. Well, it sounds so. Before we move on, I just want you to let our users know: do we really need to change all of our passwords, or was that the shotgun approach, and we really don't need to do that? Because as soon as this was discovered, didn't they? They just basically, closed the. They were able to patch this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as it stands now, all the top 1,000 websites have been patched with this. The challenge is, like I mentioned earlier, is the decryption of past sessions, and the fact that a lot of people out there reuse their passwords. So they use the same password for their bank, for their email, for their instant messenger. If you're one of those users, then it is a good idea to change the passwords across the board, because what happens is they obtain this username and password information, and it's not as if somebody's sitting there on the other end with a keyboard trying your username and password at every site. What they're do, they have scripts and automated ways to take your information and test it across all websites, in an automated way. So if you're reusing that type of credential information, it is important to change it.
Wow. So
they were actually doing that a while ago when they had an exploit with iTunes where you could do the password recovery, and pretty much anyone could do it. I mean, they had something in there where pretty much you just had to redirect it to a different email. And they were just taking that password and just applying it to banks that they thought you might go to, or other websites like Amazon, and so it's very common. And I guess now would be a good time to remind everyone: 6 months, change your passwords, maybe password keeper, that kind of thing. So, but I mean, if anyone who follows basic password maintenance, they shouldn't have too much to fear from this. I would think change your passwords often, keep them complicated, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's also, some websites out there that will check to make sure that any services you're using aren't vulnerable to the Heartbleed anymore. Of course, we have a list of them here, but, you can put in the website of your bank, for example, and it'll say, no, your bank wasn't susceptible to Heartbleed.
Really?
Yep.
And so you can actually, so in other words, you can validate whether the information was never accessed. Is what you're saying?
Well, we won't know if it was accessed at that time, but what it's saying is it's validating that the site is no longer vulnerable. So
okay,
you can feel
you can feel safe, except if you have, let's say, this password that you were using on, let's say, your bank, and somehow it was compromised with Heartbleed, and now that even though they fixed it, and they can they still get my password from the information that they captured from before?
Well, that's the whole key in changing the password, right? Is that if you, even though the bank website may not be vulnerable to Heartbleed, if you don't change the password, that password they obtained from a vulnerable service could be used to access your bank information.
And that information is, they can decrypt that? I mean, they get that information decrypted through this Heartbleed exploit?
Well,
Yep. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, I was saying, he was going through the 4 points you mentioned earlier, and they sounds like they got the, I would say authentication keys, but that's not right. The session keys, and that would be how you decrypt that, or that's how the website itself decrypts it. So if they have access to it, they can decrypt the information too.
Can they ever, now that this is fixed, can they ever do this particular one again, or was this something that had this exploit been around for a very long time, and did no one ever realize it until at that time?
Well, we don't think it has been around for a very long time. I mean, it's there's a couple different versions of OpenSSL. 1.01G, I believe, is the one that was most vulnerable. So people that were using OpenSSL version 1.0 didn't have this bug. So when they were updated, when they brought out the next version, this bug was introduced, which is kind of a risk, when you use open source software. And it's kind of one of those things. The idea of open source is to have the community at large review it. So your quality assurance team is the world, and it's supposed to be better because of that. But what we've seen is, in some cases, people take it for granted, and the public is not doing their diligence, I would say.
well. First of all, I would think, how long is this SSL technology has been around for quite some time, has it not?
Oh yeah.
So then why are we only at 1 point something? I would think by now you would be at 10.4. Why are we back at 1 point something?
Well, it seems like a rather hard thing if you're going to change in the infrastructure or something. I mean, you can change the shutters on your house all you want, but how many times do you replace your support beams?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, SSL is so core at the technology we use to encrypt the internet. It doesn't change that frequently, but also remember, open source is not. It's not run by a company, so they don't frequently issue full stage updates, I'll say. So, for example, it might have taken them years to go from version 0.2 to 0.5, as opposed to a 1 to a 1.01. And then you see this version is 1.01G. So the release numbers may create a misnomer.
Okay, and I'm all for open source, but the point is, obviously you don't want open source when you're dealing with security, do you? I mean, I would think that you'd want a private company to manage this, or you're saying because it's open source, so many people are looking at it, they can make it extremely. The more people you have looking at it to make sure that it's ironclad is better than a private company that would have developed something like this.
Well, that's the theory behind the open source. Maybe at this point, since everybody relies on OpenSSL so much, it might be time to fund them properly.
Yeah, either fund them properly or come up with a company that does it privately.
I mean, to some extent, I agree with Craig. Where it's kind of well, I disagree with Craig because I mean, if you have a million people looking for bugs, and as soon as one person opens their mouth and says or posts on a forum or something, that's going to get patched and fixed right away. But the other thing is, I mean, these are big name companies that are using open source. I mean, I'm assuming these companies that have a lot of money could probably pay someone to make their own SSL. It's just surprising to hear so many are using the open source.
Yeah, and so you'll find it's interesting that the financial services companies out there that have the online banking presence, they're not using OpenSSL. They have purchased private SSL libraries, which is why they weren't susceptible. Of course, the problem is that these other bigger companies were, and it's really not that uncommon to find open source technology in data centers today, although something used for something so critical like encryption, it's not uncommon, but in this case, happened to be a tricky one. So.
All right. Well, listen. Now, what we're going to do is Charles Tendell, my co-host, is just resurfaced and is here with us now.
I'm fashionably late, as always.
Oh no, this is the first time you've actually ever done this. So.
Yeah, I apologize. We were driving, and like the first time you called, I was getting off the highway. The second time you called, there was a police officer behind me, so I couldn't answer the phone.
And then the first he called, he was walking into his door.
Not quite.
By the 10th time, I was like, "Oh, Craig's gonna freak out." So Ben is now, he no longer has a Thursday night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's okay. So because I really want you, Charles, to be here because you're the certified ethical hacker and you know so much about this. Ben's been asking some very good questions from from the general.
You
stuff.
could just say it, the layman.
The layman's question.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what you guys have already covered, and so.
Well, we just talked a little bit about Heartbleed and why why it was important and the open SSL and the HTTPS and that used to be the secure the lock on it and then all of a sudden someone found this exploit that allowed people to get into it and do all these really bad things, and it's since been corrected. My understanding is correct.
Right. Well, SSL itself is not the problem. I mean, OpenSSL it's one of these underfunded projects out there where it was all volunteers that were doing it. I mean, volunteers do quality work, but after years and years and years, sometimes you get tired and you can't have the same level of quality as a well-funded project. So it's not that suddenly there was this massive hole. It was somebody looked at it thoroughly for the first time and discovered a vulnerability. That was the end of it. That's really how it works out. I mean, it's like saying, Computer America's website is great. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing missing. There's nothing wrong on the website. Yada yada yada. But you, like, for example, you guys, before I showed up, you thought you were completely secure on your WordPress installation, and then I sent you your first report, and you were like, "Oh dear God, no."
Charles does make us freak out.
Yeah. Now here's the thing that I want to continue giving sort of Charles has kind of played catch up, which is fine. But what I'd like to ask, and before we go on, Ben, if you want to stick around, you can. Although I know you're going to be with me tomorrow night. If you want, I know you're over at your brother's. Now that Charles is here, if you don't mind, we can just let you go, and we'll continue on with Charles and myself.
I was going to do it a little more subtly and just get behind the scenes, but yes, I will be taking my leave.
No, Ben, you must stay.
No, Charles, this night's all yours. Have fun.
Come on. We could totally get rid of Craig, and you and I can run the show.
Maybe in the future.
I thought we'd already discussed this hostile takeover.
No, that's another night. That's another show.
Ben, you're leaving me.
Yeah. All right, Ben. Well, we'll catch you. We'll see you tomorrow night on the show. In the meantime, we'll continue on with Brandon, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
Brandon, sounds good.
All
Charles,
right.
have
Thank
fun.
you.
All right. So so let's continue. What I wanted to find out is why, Brandon, did it take so long to discover this bug? Because evidently it's been around for a very, very long time, and why did it take so long? Not only to discover the bug, but also discover that someone was taking advantage of it.
Well, that's a great question. I think Charles kind of hit on it. OpenSSL is free. It's maintained by a small team of volunteers who aren't paid for their efforts.
Yeah.
Lots of people, probably looked at the first, instantiation of this software as they really, it was reliable. People were using it, and to change out your SSL library is kind of a significant undertaking. And as Charles noted, people, somebody put it under a microscope and found this issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happens a lot of these times, and this is kind of the portion of it that I preach to everyone, is security. People treat security like it's a static thing, like you go and you paint your car, or you go and you set it up and you can forget it, and there's really nothing else that needs to be done with it, and that's not the case. At one point this vulnerability did not exist. At one point these exploits for it were not available. No, it was not there, or technology or the idea of looking for it hadn't evolved to that point. And then when it did, you got Heartbleed, and that's the way the security world works, is it evolves to where you're going next. I mean, for example, what's secure today won't necessarily be secure tomorrow. It takes time for these types of attacks to develop. And I think it was just a good wake-up call. I mean, while there were a lot of sites that used OpenSSL, there were a lot more that had their private certificates, that had VeriSign certs. They had all these other SSLs out there that weren't susceptible to it. But where there's free stuff, that's where people are going to gravitate to.
Charles, if I could say something, you hit right on exactly another conversation I was having with somebody else about this, and they said, why is it so important? And it's really, like you said, a wake-up call for that security is important. It needs to move from kind of reactive to proactive, and that people need to look at the basics and the core of the technologies that these enterprises are relying on, and understand, and maybe it's time to look at those basics again and maybe do a refresh.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's in my day job. I am the founder and CEO of Azorian Cybersecurity, and this is what we do: is dynamic security solutions. We run into people who have they have that World War II battlefield mentality, that old school mentality, don't fire till you see the whites in their eyes type deal, when it comes to their security, and then it comes down to they've got a modern attack, advanced persistent threats. They've got all these different types of malware that they don't know how to defend against because they've never seen them before, because they're not looking in that direction. They're looking for, back in the 90s, the guy that kicks in your door, wipes all your servers and leaves a pretty message on your website. Hackers aren't doing that anymore. So the reason things like this continue to get out there, in my opinion, is because it's time for a change. And I could say it till I'm blue in the face, which if you know me, it's kind of hard to do, but but it's one of those things. It's one of those things where I hope it is a wake-up call. I really do hope people are like, oh dear God, this is insane. We've got to start doing something different. But until, and I'm not one for big government legislation, or more big government, but until somebody gets held accountable for this, more consumers are going to get hit. There are going to be more victims out there, and there's going to be more breaches. It's just how it's going to be.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're up at the bottom of the hour here, and while Charles is going to be getting some computer news for the second hour, hint, hint, we're
not going to do it.
We're going to take a little break, and then we'll continue on and discuss about some of the things that we can be done to reduce the damage of issues like this kind of proactively, moving forward with all of this. Brandon, we'll get to that and more when we come back. You're listening to the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, on the Boost Radio Network, on the IRN Radio Network. We'll be right back after this commercial messages. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Don't go anywhere.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No has patented thermocon technology that works on all hair and skin colors, so it's perfect for using on all body parts. And now you can take advantage of this incredible risk-free trial. Get the No, the facial kit, a travel case, and a $100 discount shopping card, and you don't risk a penny to try it. Try the incredible No hair completely risk-free. Call 1-800-953-5415. That's 800-953-5415. 800-953-5415.
Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission is to protect and enhance the lives of companion animals and the people who love them. Their no-kill rescue shelter is open year-round, making it easy for people to adopt their best new friend. This year, Brother Wolf will find homes for over 2,400 orphan dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens. All have ended up as an orphan through no fault of their own. Brother Wolf has created a safe, nurturing environment where these special animals can heal emotionally and physically until they find a lifelong home. Their life-saving transport program brings dogs and puppies from overcrowded shelters in the south to rescues in the north where homes are easier to find. Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is a 501c3 organization. To learn more about their life-saving work and to make a donation, visit their website at www.bwar.org. That's www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy? Hello, this London Minute voice memo is brought to you by Banktree, providers of personal finance software, helping you manage your money and become smarter with your spending. Visit banktree.co.uk for their 30-day trial and free mobile app. Now, where was I? Oh yes, at Match.com. My client and I enlarged the man's photo. There was an intake of breath. The outdoorsy man was holding a dead rabbit by its ears. The huntsman may well be able to make a meaty rabbit pie with a flaky crust, but most ladies these days want to be wined and dined in restaurants. Computer America's Grayson Hamilton told me he happily uses online dating websites and he likes restaurants. There is optimism for the singletons. Online dating also offers a workaround for the dreaded blind date. However, you must watch out for misrepresentation, aka scams. If a lady says she's 65, likes the theatre and sampling wines, she may be a he, aged 15, from Ghana. Don't send her, I mean him, cash. The rabbit hunter was at least being his authentic self. He'll find his match, someone who doesn't mind hearing.
Shh, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbit.
If you like the sound of the London Minute voice memo and want your company to sponsor my audio column, contact me at my website, loveyourcomputer.co.uk, or on Twitter, I'm at ComputerTweety. This is Patricia Reichel for Computer America.
And now that I've made sure that that button is pushed, welcome back into the Computer America show. Craig and I don't know our guest's name. This is what happens when I'm late. Brian.
Brandon.
Brandon, what's your last name?
Last name's Hoffman.
Hoffman. Okay,
Yes.
well, let's start that one over. Welcome back to the Computer America show. We're 34 minutes after the hour in the first hour. Craig and I are talking to Brandon Hoffman. We're talking about all sorts of fun security stuff, having a good old time. I was late. I apologize. If you guys want to get in on the conversation, you can join us over at computeramerica.com. Shoot us an email live at computeramerica.com. Or, let me make sure I got this one right, you can give us a call, 347-884-8881. It'll get you on and get you through, and you can join the conversation and have some fun with us. Or over on our live interactive add-on chat page, right above it, you get to see our new live streaming video page brought to you by Otherworld Computing. Great things from great people. Visit macsales.com and get your Mac upgrade on.
All right. And by the way, I'm starting to collect some news stories for our second hour. I don't know if you have had a chance to do that, but I'm starting to do them just in case.
I have not begun to test the limits of the hotel internet. But, you know.
Now, both of you, I have to say, you're in a hotel and Brandon is in a hotel, and both of you sound very good.
Well, I think it has to do with the Hangouts on one end, I think. And Brandon, I'm assuming you're dialed in, aren't you?
No, he's Skyped. He's Skyped in.
Yeah, good.
He's Skyped in.
We must be both must be staying at quality hotels.
It must be. It must be the quality hotel. Okay. So, and we're talking about Heartbleed. So, I just wanted to kind of touch on this, and what can be done to reduce the damage of issues like this and other ones. Kind of moving forward. In other words, I guess proactively, if you would say, what can be done, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Charles talked earlier about maybe it's time for something new. Technology is always evolving. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's a time that hopefully this will bring up to go back and review these basic security controls, things that people have forgotten about, like SSL, because it's been working, things like segmenting your network, prioritizing, vulnerabilities effectively, perimeter security, things that people are kind of taking for granted nowadays. These basic techniques, being proactive in them can help at least reduce the damage from something like this when it takes place, or even possibly prevent things like this in the future is really putting the focus back on security, bringing it to the foreground, giving it the attention that it needs, I think is what's in order here.
Really,
I agree. I mean, it's truly one of those situations where we've got people who, well, it's always like this. It's like, oh, security, yeah, IT handles that, and they leave it alone. There's nothing else that anybody is thinking about, and it becomes one of those. How you say, one of those by the wayside features, and
it's
I've
like
been
a pariah.
yeah, they're just like, you're the bastard stepchild, go away.
Exactly.
As a security guy, we're always like, it's a beautiful thing though. Actually, we're just, as a security guy, we are always the first one blamed, right? Everything was working fine until that security guy updated something, every single time, or it's the, everything was working fine until we implemented the new security, and now our life is hard, and da 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 da, But until companies and organizations get it in their mix that security is not optional, you will end up hacked if you don't do something now.
And we're also the first ones that they call when something's really wrong, right?
Yeah, like, I think we've got a hacker. Oh, now I'm your friend. Got it.
Now you care.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of that too, I would think, Charles. I mean, people
all the time, actually, and people are like, "Oh, the certified ethical hacker. He doesn't need to be here. He's going to use fear, uncertainty, and doubt to get me to actually look at my security in a real manner." And then it's like, "No, I'm not going to use any of that. I'm just going to sit here and show you what's on the outside of your main firewall and how that firewall is completely useless."
Now, there have been some instances, Brandon, where an exploit is discovered, and a company will know about it, and they don't tell anybody about it till maybe 6 months, even a year or longer before they finally say, "Yeah, we've got this." Was that the case with Heartbleed? I mean, had it been hacked and companies knew about it and didn't say anything, or was it because it was open source that there was really no cover-up in this case, and the moment it was really discovered, everybody knew about it?
Well, so I don't really think there was a cover-up here. I mean, we can talk about the NSA,
I agree.
of course, but I think the thing is that because it's open source, as I mentioned before, there's really no quality assurance team that's looking at this on a regular basis. I mean, it passes muster. They send it back out to the community, but because it's not inspected so frequently on a specific cycle, or maybe at the depth that people would like, probably went under the radar. Now, of course, there are people that say the NSA knew about it for a long time, has been exploiting it for a long time. Of course, they'll never admit that, and we don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think, specifically when something comes out about open source, and especially something so critical, I think the researchers that found it probably let the public know pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, there's it's been used for more than just, oh, look at this, bringing security awareness to the thing. It's been a lot. There's also been a lot of, look, open source is bad, but it's not. It really isn't. I mean, this project would have been like OpenSSL would have been, it could have continued its life. It's served the community and the world extremely well up to this point. And you're right. Who was it that broke it? Was it Spider Labs? It was TrustWave, wasn't it?
I think it was FireEye, actually.
FireEye, there we go. When they figured it out, you don't know how long they knew about it. Like, there's a vulnerability that the recent Internet Explorer one. We've been following this particular vulnerability for about a month now. We first sent it out to our clients as, this is a potential, this is being developed, this is something you might want to look into. In one of our threat intelligence reports, we sent that out on the 20th of last month. And just this week, it broke as a major story because it's now out there. So sometimes it comes down to the OpenSSL thing may have actually been around for a while, and people had been talking about it for a while. It just hadn't gotten in front of the right people to get the amount of press that it needed to get out, to be in front of everyone, to be such a big story. It comes down to, they caught it, they released the information, it's out there. As far as a cover-up, I mean, Brandon, as well as I do that, the underground market for these types of O-days and these type of vulnerabilities, they're huge. There's millions upon millions of dollars to be made in that space, and certain people pay big money to make sure that information doesn't come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that does happen, and Charles, I'm sure you see this too all the time. I'll be talking with colleagues of mine, or we'll be on our Twitter feeds or whatever the case in forums, and we'll be talking about I think so and so may have been breached, and then why is that? And we'll talk about it, and then a month later the company actually admits, yeah, we were breached a month ago, and we were already talking about it, but there's no evidence, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they've got wheels to spin. They've got red tape to go through, and that's the saddest thing. Is that's the point at which legal gets involved. They're trying to CYA. They're doing all this other stuff. Forensics gets involved, and then they finally have to come out and admit it once they have a plan as to how they're going to bring this information to light. You have to have the plan.
Exactly. It's been fixed. Everybody's suggesting change your passwords even though it may or may not have. I mean, if it's an online store where you casually maybe you purchase something once in a while, I don't think is that important as opposed to being, let's say, your banking website and you find that had been exploited. Brandon?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on this briefly a little bit earlier, is that, this password, if people are reusing passwords, that's the problem, right? Is that if you're going on the online shopping or maybe, looking at your email and you're using that password for your banking and they have that password and you don't change it, then they could get access to that financial data then because they'll have the password. So that's why everybody's kind of suggesting a change across the board. In my mind, I keep pretty tight password rotation policy on my personal stuff, and even I went and changed all mine just because you never know.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's part of what we tell our clients all the time is, we were sending them a reminder, have you changed your passwords change your passwords this month? And, it's a good rule of thumb for everyone. And I know people are like, it's horrible. I don't have time to remember that password over and over again. Just change your password by 1 or 2 characters, add a character, change a number in it, do something like that, My wife, actually, she picked a random sequence of numbers, and she changes the last 2 digits of that sequence every single time. Now, you don't know where those numbers are inside the password, but she changes it. Every 90 days, change your password. It doesn't matter whether you get attacked by something like this or not. Every 90 days, or, at maximum, just change them. You could even go out as far as every 6 months and still be good, but, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Now, Addison in the chat room says he never stores his credit card with any online store, so if someone gets, let's say, his Amazon account, for example, they won't be actually able to buy anything. Is that safe?
Wait, say that again?
He says that he never stores his credit card with any online store, so if someone gets access to his Amazon account, for example, they won't be able to actually buy anything.
That's fine. I mean, that's a good one. I mean, I store one card that I use for regular purchases. I have that card stored, but there's never any money on that card unless I'm about to make a purchase.
Well, which way is better, if there is a bet? Brandon, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of people take Charles, the way that Charles does it. They have this one card, and that's the card, that's their quote-unquote online designated card. That way, if something happens, there's damage control built in. Mm-hmm. To the question that came through, I think that's an important point. Yeah, I mean, if their shopping account, got hacked this way, and there's no credit card online, that's fine. But if that password's reused at a financial institution, somebody could get into that banking institution. Now, what are they going to do with that information? Well, it might not be that hard. I mean, it's not like you can initiate a transfer out of an account that easily, anymore. You used to be able to do that. You can't do that so easily anymore. So, I think it's pretty safe, but a lot of people, I find, have their designated online card. Charles, you noted that you have one, but, maybe it's like a fill-up card, right? You only put money on it when it's ready to go, and that way if somebody does get it, they got nothing anyways.
Yep. Or if they, and I've got a couple of features built into it that if it gets used and it gets declined, I'm going to text message. It says this card was just attempted to be used at this place and it was declined, and that's great because sometimes I've used it for things that are like auto pay. that renew their subscription. And I'm like, oh, thanks for the reminder. Transfer done.
Yeah. Except if, let's say you have you have no money, but you're going to put $100 in something to buy something. you leave the $100 in there, and while it's in there, and you haven't used it yet, someone could steal the $100. I mean,
yeah, but I'd rather they steal $100 than $100,000.
Oh, okay.
I would honestly rather they steal the very little bit amount of money that's going to be on that card. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm going to make a purchase in any way, shape, or form, that money is put on the card like in the seconds before I hit submit or buy or check out. That's when I move the money. Check out, the money goes, I'm done. You know?
Okay. All right. So it's sort of like a debit card, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not a credit card, so you're not looking to establish credit. It's just a debit card.
Credit cards are evil.
Yeah, I agree with you. They are. They are. So all these different processes that we're kind of describing. I know. Tell us a little bit about RedSeal Networks itself. I'm just kind of curious. What is it you do at RedSeal?
Yeah, so what we do at RedSeal is really we're a cyber attack prevention platform. What we do is we kind of graph potential attacks inside of organization networks. We do that by providing visibility into the network and what actual access is provided across the network. So we take that information and we create kind of this offline model of the entire network, and we take all this vulnerability data like Heartbleed in, and we help tell people
that I do use it.
The weakest point. I'm sorry, did you say something?
No, sorry, I was talking to. I was not on mute, and I thought I was.
Yeah, I mean, we take this vulnerability information, we prioritize it for the customers, and we say, hey, this issue is the highest order issue that you need. It's creating the most risk in your network right now. You need to remedy it immediately. We help people understand how somebody could go lateral in their attack. So, for example, in the case like this, if somebody used Heartbleed just to get onto a vulnerable system and sit inside of a network and kind of wait, as is typical of advanced targeted attacks these days, they move laterally, sideways, or deeper into the network. RedSeal can help our customers understand how is that possible, how can you stop that, and of course we provide this visibility and segmentation information because we really believe that there's professionals out there that are tasked with this entire domain of securing the network, right? The communication platform for the entire enterprise and for people, if we're talking about the network at large. And if you can't see it and you can't understand this gigantic network, how can you really secure it? And so those are some of the things that we're providing our customers.
So I'm on your website, Brandon, and I'm looking at. So you guys basically you're a giant network security monitoring solution, or what is your engine?
Now, Charles, behave yourself. Don't hack the nice website.
I'm not hacking the nice website. There's a common rule among security professionals: we don't hack each other.
Okay.
We don't hack each other, right?
There was, I don't know if you heard about this, Charles, but actually researchers in the U.S. actually used Heartbleed to break into some of the hacker forums and hacker websites, so kind of turn the tables on them, because as we all know, while they're great at offense, they're bad at defense.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys had heard about that.
Actually, it was my threat intelligence team. Not incriminating my team. They found their way into a lot of great resources over the course of the last several weeks, and I can't say that it was because of Heartbleed, but it was because there were holes that the hackers are all the bad guys out there are like, oh, we'll never get hacked. There is honor amongst thieves. The hacker groups out there don't hack each other, so there's nobody checking each other's security. So it's fun to see, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so back to your question, Charles, about RedSeal networks. We're not really network security monitoring in the classic sense. For the technical listeners out there, I mean, the way that we really work, and for your edification, Charles, is we take layer 3 configuration files. So really the devices that comprise the network, that make the network actually function, we take the configuration files of those, and we build an offline model of all the access that exists in the network. So we understand every potential path that could be taken inside the network, from outside inside, inside out, and of course internal to internal. And that's the foundation of the analytics that we do, and then we kind of layer components onto that and bring threat intelligence in different pieces to leverage that access, those access analytics, to determine attack graph, to determine risk profile, and determine weak points in the network.
That's a really cool engine. I mean, It's doing. If you've seen Jurassic Park, right? The original one.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the scene where Malcolm's got what's her name and he's doing the drop of water thing?
Yep.
You know, and he's a KI-tician. You guys are analyzing the potential paths where something's going to take, where something's going to go, so you can actually detect anomalous traffic ahead of time. You know, as it begins to move, because look, this is typically this stuff, but it's not this way, and this information came in here, and it would normally go this way, but it's going this way. This might be a problem. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting technology. It's very proactive, and so, that's one of the reasons why I think, Heartbleed, while it is, somewhat devastating and it's a big deal, I really do hope, like you said earlier, Charles, that the people take security seriously. They take it from reactive, make it proactive. RedSeal is a proactive security technology because, once they're in, it's too late. The damage is done, right? So we really got to bring it to the foreground and make it proactive, and I'm really hoping that's what happens.
Good. Good. Well, it's good to see somebody else in that same kind of fight, because, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of the companies that are like, oh yeah, we got a guy, Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it was entertaining. We actually talked our way into one of our newest clients. We had a meeting, and I had the COO, the CFO, and all those guys sitting around the table, and their new outsourced IT security solutions guy, right? And he sits there, and he's got the contract, he's won it, and he's essentially now in this pissing contest, saying this is why you don't need anyone else externally to do any of this stuff because we got you covered. And long conversation short, I got the CEO to agree to allow us to do just a light red team assessment of their infrastructure, like just start with nothing, just your website, and see where we can get from there. 20 minutes later, my tech team dumped their client database from their website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy that was sitting there was like, well, we hadn't gotten to that yet. I was like, yeah, well, you're sitting here telling everyone that you're covering them, that you've got this solution, and that's what's sad, is there are so many people out there who they went out, they got like 2 or 3 certifications, they read a couple of books, and now they're security professionals, and they're still doing it the old way. The defense in depth, the layered perimeter. I'm not looking for threat patterns on your infrastructure. I've got my firewall, I've got my ACLs configured, we're good to go. And that leaves so many people out there to not be able to do things. And it's really good to see an organization like RedSeal doing that. You guys, hats off to you.
Did we lose you? No, we're there.
I'm here.
No, okay. All right. Well, good. So, Brandon, we get about 3 minutes left here. Anything else that you'd like to suggest to listeners about what it is?
Well, actually, wait, Brandon, I've got a quick question then.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is RedSeal, you guys just focus on the enterprise, or are you doing any sort of consumer grade, education and security solutions?
Yeah, so right now we have the one platform. I mean, and the platform really is designed for complex enterprise networks. Now we do have a component of the product that is used by teams like your team, Charles. They're certified ethical hackers, and what they do is they use it to map out the network ahead of time, and it almost does some of that basic pen test stages that you kind of get tired of doing, that you're like, can't we just automate this and map the perimeter and all this stuff ahead of time so we know. We provide that type of software to those teams. We're not providing the service ourselves, of course. We don't have a product today that's for the end user, just because it's designed for complex networks, but we might someday.
Okay, cool.
All right, and again, this is anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners about? Again, most of the things that you do and all these things were most for enterprise, but anything that the average user can do, other than the normal standard stuff, antivirus, anti-malware, this, just be any other words of advice to them?
Well, I think there's a couple other things that people can do. So, specifically related, to this, and of course this Microsoft this IE 0 day that popped up and different things. So, aside from changing passwords, you can go into your browsers. You can do certificate refreshes. So, there's a cache inside your browser that stores these certificates. Clearing that out every once in a while. I know there's probably some programs out there that can do that for you. That's probably a good idea. And also, you can enable more security controls inside of your browser. Some browsers are more secure than others by the way they're written, but you can also enable things like enhanced protected mode in Internet Explorer and other ones in Firefox and Google and Chrome and all these different ones. And there's extra security features that you can add on, and I know sometimes it may seem like it's causing a problem or it might make your internet slower, but it really is making you more secure. It's probably worth the effort.
Okay. Well, if you go to computeramerica.com, our website, and you go to our show notes page and click on the show notes there, you'll see today's show, which is the 1st of May, and you can see the link to the RedSeal networks. We have it up there in the description, and if you have many more interests of this, you can read all the things on the RedSeal network website. Brendan, I want to thank you. I know you had a busy day, and thanks for being with us and kind of checking in with us and telling us all about this, and we really appreciate you being here tonight.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I really enjoyed being on with you guys, and I'm sure the rest of the show will go great, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Absolutely.
Brandon, I'm going to send you a LinkedIn request, sir. Keep in touch.
Absolutely, I was going to do that too. So.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Brandon. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye. All right. All right. Well, there he goes. Again,
So, Craig, you should be getting, news stories in your inbox as this all rolls around from my news aggregation department.
Yes, I've been getting them, although I think I'm fine. I may use one or two, but I've got a whole bunch of news stories that we can certainly use.
Fine, you can have your own news stories, but you got to send them to me so that I can see them.
Yes, no, this is very true, and we'll do that, and I'll probably do that. Where's the best way? I'll just probably use the chat window website, I guess.
Use the Hangout. Nope, I'm on my Chromebook.
Oh, you're on your Chromebook. Okay.
On my Chromebook, so I've never even attempted to do anything like AIM on the Chromebook, but
I'm sending you just a couple here so you can
send them inside the chat room on the Hangout.
That's what I'm doing. I'm sending on the chat room the Hangout right now.
Okay.
And see if you can see those. There's another one. See,
There we go. Yeah, I see them.
Okay, good.
I see CNET, Vision Touch for keyboards, World. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll start doing some of these stories, but we're gonna, take a little break here, and then we come back. We're gonna do computer and technology news, brought to you by Slimmer Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America, and also in the second hour we'll have a London Minute. Okay. The newest London Minute, and then we'll continue on. Okay. All right. This is the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, on the Boost Radio Network, and the IRN Radio Network. We will be right back with computer and technology news. Stay with us for another hour of the Computer America Show.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
Oh, you didn't do the great and powerful Craig.
It's messed up enough as it is.
And I am your co-host, certified ethical hacker, Charles Tendell.
And I just want to make sure that the stories that I'm sending you, the links, you can get each and every one of them.
I've got them. Apple Envision's touch sensitivity,
all right.
a whole bunch of other stuff.
All yeah, tell me that you got them, and that's all I really need to know. So,
hey, Craig.
Yeah.
Craig,
yes.
I got this.
I got this.
Can't touch this.
I got this. Okay. All right. Well, by the way, so I didn't realize you're going to be at the hotel already that fast.
Yeah, I had called you earlier today and left you a voicemail, which you should feel ridiculously special. I never leave voicemails. Like, I think the only other person I would leave a voicemail for is Dee. I don't ever leave voicemails.
Well, that's good because I didn't get it.
Well, I left you a voicemail
on my cell phone or the office phone.
I called both, but I think in the end I left it on your cell phone.
Well, didn't get it. Now we could actually confirm this.
Check it.
I'm going to check just to see
Check
if
it.
I actually got it. Okay, here.
Check it.
That's one from unknown.
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
Told you. Yeah.
Yeah, you left this at about 6 o'clock tonight. Okay. All
It
right.
well, it might have been 6 o'clock your time. Yeah, probably. It was about 4 o'clock my time, and
I saw it come in, but I just didn't have a chance to look at it because it says unknown, and I tend to
ignore those. Yeah, I know, and I meant to send you a text message about that, but we were running out the door. Our flight leaves in the morning, and we were doing all of our calculations, and thank you, Taliban and Bin Laden. We were appropriately trying to be at the airport 2 hours ahead of time, and for us to be at the airport 2 hours ahead of time from where we were, we had to add an additional hour to 2 hours onto that because we were going to be driving down and we were going to hit rush hour traffic at its peak.
Yeah.
So we were like, so it was decided about noonish that we were just going to get packed up, get in the car and go down to where the airport is and just get a hotel room. Stay down here, get up, an hour before we needed to be where we needed to be, get in the car, get to the airport, get on our plane.
Very nice, and it all worked out except
Except I was late. I'm sorry.
I was late. That's okay. Hey, listen, we're used to it. So let's do some computer news and see what's going on in the world.
I think we can do that.
Tonight's computer and technology news is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. You can visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system for free.
Free!
Okay. That part of the technology still works, evidently.
Yeah. Free!
Everything free.
You know what I'm missing right now?
What are you missing?
My buttons.
Your buttons? You mean your button?
I didn't bring my no button, my right button, and my wrong button. No! All right, there we go.
All right. Well, let's start off that I saw this story and I went, whoa, AT&T, this is according to PC World, AT&T has reported it wants to buy DirecTV.
What? AT&T wants to buy everyone. Remember, they tried to buy T-Mobile. AT&T's been trying to buy everyone because AT&T is like the oldest one on the block, and they're 100% certain they're good guys.
They haven't tried to buy us yet, so.
Well, that day happens. I do expect a check that is,
commensurate. Yes.
Yeah.
AT&T has approached DirecTV about a possible acquisition in a bid to more closely integrate TV and broadband services, but they have Uverse already. So what? They went around DirecTV, and now they want to buy it, and what are they going to do with Uverse? It doesn't make sense. The deal is expected to be worth more than $40 billion with a B, and would combine DirecTV's approximately 20 million TV subscribers with AT&T's already existing Uverse TV offering.
Wait. If AT&T threw a check at Computer America that had a B in it like that,
I'm out of here. I'm out of Tahiti, man.
You're gonna have to upgrade. It's got to be at a minimum $2 billion so that I can get $1 billion.
One of those, okay.
Just saying, because I think we're good.
I'd split it with $500 million. Okay.
$500 million? What is that?
That's $500 million.
No, if it's $2 billion, I should get at least $1 billion.
If it's $2 billion, yeah, but if it's $1 billion,
if it's $1 billion, I'll split a half.
That works both ways, by the way.
Because I'm telling you, right? If they come up and say, Charles, we want to buy you for $1 billion, we're like, well, they're gonna buy me $1 billion, and I'm gonna up it by another $500 million, and I'm gonna give that $500 million to Craig.
Okay, that works. Okay.
You know?
Now,
And then you know what we're gonna have to do? You know what we're gonna have to do then? We're gonna have to do the Miami Vice thing and buy the white was it Ferrari?
Testarossa.
Yeah, we're gonna have to buy the white Testarossas, and it's gonna have to say, you know, Computer America 1 and Computer America 2.
Your wife's gonna want to say Computer America 3 and 4. You know?
Right? 3, 4, 5, 10, 12. You know. We'll get the Computer America blimp at that point, won't we?
Could be. Now, the possible deal. You know, again, as I said, they have UVerse, so I'm going to see why. The possible deal comes as the U.S. TV sector is in a state of flux after cable giant Comcast announced a $45.2 billion deal to purchase competing cable television and broadband provider Time Warner Cable in February. That still has to, of course, get regulatory approval.
Mm-hmm.
Telecom operators and pay TV providers around the world are under pressure from internet-based voice and video services, respectively, shrinking revenues from voice and messaging thanks to competition from the likes of WhatsApp and Skype are forcing operators to look for new revenue streams. I got to tell you, though, my feeling is that, you know, although it's wonderful, I mean, Skype and all these things are wonderful, and I really love Uma, you know, I think it's one of the best. It's still not, you know, what a regular phone is. I mean, when was the last time that your phone, went out of, there's a power outage of phone? When did your phone go out? I mean, I didn't have a phone outage for years. You know, of course, I was tired of paying those high prices. That's why I switched over to Uma, which I absolutely love now. But you know, it just seemed to be regular phones seem to be the most reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, in 2013, DirecTV's U.S. revenues increased from 6% to $24.68 billion compared to the prior year, thanks to an increasing average revenue per user. However, net subscribers additions decreased from 199,000 to 169,000 in the prior year. The decline in gross additions was part and due to a more challenging competitive environment and mature industry, according to DirecTV, and that makes sense. I mean, you know, I can still see needing a dish with DirecTV for internet if you're in the middle of nowhere, because it's the only way you're going to get it. You're not going to run a landline to you, you know. Mm-hmm. But you just put a satellite up, and look, you can get phone and TV, you can get all that stuff, you know, with a satellite dish. So, because satellite will work anywhere on the planet, whereas, you know, cable, you have to run a cable, and if you're one guy in the middle of the desert somewhere, that ain't going to work. But you know, anyway, we'll just have to see if this goes through. This report just came out today around 6 this evening, so we'll see. All right, why don't you do a story?
I don't want to do a story.
You don't?
What if I don't want to do a story, Craig? What if I want to hold your stories hostage?
No.
All right. From CNET.com, Apple envisions touch sensitivity for keyboards. Don't we already have that on, like, the iDevices?
No, I have touch sensitivity on my music keyboard.
On
a regular keyboard? Why would that be?
How would you do that? Anyway, the article goes on, your Apple keyboard of the future could let you swipe across the keys to perform actions now handled by the trackpad. Oh, please, God, get rid of the trackpad. Published on Thursday by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, an Apple patent dubbed Multifunctional Keyboard Assemblies highlights ways to expand the power of the traditional keyboard through the use of key stacks. Integrated into the keyboard, these key stacks would consist of a key cap, circuitry, and other components to improve the functionality of each key. One such improvement would be touch sensitivity. Using touch gestures, you could swipe across a range of keys as you now swipe across a touchpad. One example listed in the patent filing, swiping from right to left across a series of keys could turn a page in an ebook. That'd be cool. The keys would also be able to respond to your touch through haptic feedback. Awesome! Meaning, pressing down a key could trigger a greater resistance, a click, or even a vibration. Visual feedback would also be part of the package, and a display on each key could show you certain information about a transparent section of the keycap. Oh, I had to swallow. The core idea behind such a keyboard would be to replicate some of the functions now provided by a mouse or trackpad. Even though the patent filing displays a laptop, desktop keyboards would certainly benefit from more features that reduce your reliance on a mouse. But as always, a filing doesn't necessarily mean Apple's keyboard technology will ever see the light of day.
Well, there you go. It could be just
actually, you know what I think? You know what I think's coming that Apple's not telling anyone?
What's that?
A convertible.
Automobile?
Well, that'd be cool. You know, the Tesla iCar all-electric Apple-powered, convertible. Why aren't there Tesla Model S convertibles?
I don't know.
No, but what I'm saying, a convertible laptop. Like Lenovo, you take it and you fold it all the way over, or you twist the screen and lay it down, and now it's a tablet and everything else.
Yeah.
I'd buy one of those if Apple did that. If they took the MacBook Air and made it into a convertible, I'd buy that.
Really?
That'd be cool.
It would be cool. Okay. By the way, one of the things we're going to be doing next Monday is we're going to have a new guest and a new sponsor joining the Computer America show.
Ooh, new sponsor.
Yeah, ProXPN.
Oh, I know these guys. They make the VPN stuff.
That's right. And I thought since I really would have loved for you to be here on that show, but you're not going to be here on that program.
When is that one?
It's this coming Monday.
I'll be on a plane.
You will
maybe not. Maybe not. I'll have to check my itinerary to see what time we land. But I could probably call in on the ride in from the airport. I know we're getting in kind of late.
Okay, well, if you can, but maybe what we should do is talk a little bit. We'll continue on, but talk a little bit about what VPN software is, and you and I can have a little talk about that, and then when they come on, Ben and I will be here if you're not here, and talk to them as well. Why don't we do a little bit of that, and then we'll go back to some of these other stories.
Okay.
All right. So, when we say VPN software, this is basically it stands for Virtual Personal Network.
Virtual Private
Network. Yes.
It could be Virtual Personal Network, depending on your implementation or who you ask. But the way these work is everybody knows your traditional connection, right? Your traditional, you plug your computer in or you connect to Wi-Fi, and suddenly you're on the interwebs, right?
Exactly.
The problem with that, and you see it every time in chat rooms, IRCs, when you visit a website, you grab the IP address of the person who's connecting to your server, who's connecting to your information. And that information can be used to find out, ISPs, you go really far, you can find out who the person is or who owns the account, geographic location, things like that. It can be used to bring a lot of information to you. And if you're out there and you always hear, well, I always say it, I can learn a lot from someone by their browsing history. Just by the type of person they are. I know right now someone somewhere thinks I'm a car-loving, gun-loving terrorist who, has a radio show. Mm-hmm. I think that's it. Professional hacker with a radio show. And but what a VPN does is it takes all of your traffic, it puts it into this tunnel that's encrypted all the way around, so your data is encrypted in transit, so it prevents anyone else who might be sitting on your wire, who's on your Wi-Fi, who's on anything.
Mm-hmm.
It sets it up so that information can't be sniffed. Now, typically what happens is if I get on your Wi-Fi network or if I get on your home network, I can set my computer up to intercept your information as it moves through your network, right? Because it's usually clear, it's not really encrypted, so on and so forth. And I can grab things like passwords, I can grab things like, like sensitive emails, I can do man-in-the-middle attacks where I'm pretending to be you or I'm contaminating something. And there's a lot of things in there that make it relatively unsafe if somebody really wants to attack you. And what a VPN does, like ProXPN, what it does is it takes all your information and puts it into its own little transportable bubble, creates a secure connection between your machine and one of their servers. So the connection between your machine and that server is all encrypted, and then when you go out to the internet finally, it looks like you're coming from ProXPN server. So there's no personal data about it. There's no tracing back to the geographic location of you. There's no information that anyone who might hack you can get back to. Now, Wait.
So in other words, when I run ProXPN on my computer, and I can turn it on and off at will, the way that it has it on my Mac, it actually has a little icon appears in the upper right-hand corner. You let it do that, and then you can turn it on and turn it off if you want to. Now, if I turn it on, and let's say I go to I don't know, let's say my banking website, okay, and it's going to ask me for my name and password. Now, at that point, if someone is trying to, as you say, sniff, and they pick up the Wi-Fi between my computer and the point where it goes out to the ISP. Between that and there,
think about it like this, okay?
Am I safe or not?
Your ISP is your highway, right? That's your connection to the information superhighway, right?
Yes.
Okay. ProXPN is a detour around the construction zone that is. So you get to use the HOV lane, basically, the walled off HOV lane, to be able to run your traffic through. So while everyone else is on one side, there might be sniffers, there might be people watching, so on and so forth. They can't see it because you're behind this barrier that keeps you away from the bad guys. Now,
is that barrier at my home? I mean, before it even gets out to there.
Now that's the beautiful thing. Even your ISP cannot see your traffic. Period. All they're going to see is your connection to the ProXPN server, and that's it. From that point on, the ProXPN server, you're sending requests to that server. That server is pulling back information and then feeding it back to you.
Really? Okay. So, for example, when I use my ProXPN and I logged on to Google, for example, I went into Google, my Gmail account, it came back and said, "Sorry, something's wrong." It
didn't recognize the location that you were in.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
That's a security feature inside Google that says this might not be right. You have to confirm you are who you say you are, and that's typical with most VPNs because I can almost bet money ProXPN doesn't have an infrastructure or a server or a pass-through set up in your area, like specifically for you, and they don't need to. You don't see any bandwidth drop. You don't see a significant bandwidth drop, I should say. And what they're doing is they're providing you with a connection to the internet that's safe, secure, and in most cases pretty darn fast.
Really? Okay. So, and now do you use a VPN yourself?
Actually, at the office, we use a couple of different VPNs. We've used ProXPN for a while now, just to test it and do all that other stuff. But we do definitely use VPNs at the ACS labs because it's people will block you based on your IP address. Sites will block you. A lot of the traffic, a lot of the things that we do as a group of hackers, most ISPs don't like. So we use the VPN to be able to alleviate that risk, that snoop, and all that other high-speed stuff.
Okay, so when they come on Monday, I'd love to tell them that you have been using the ProXPN and enjoy using it, and because it does what it's supposed to do.
I mean, and it's also they've got ProXPN also has I think they've got an Android app, they've got an iPhone app that works for your mobile devices as well. I mean, if you connect, I mean, think about this. I'm in a hotel right now, right? Okay, I don't have a VPN configured, but I'm not doing anything that's going to require passwords be entered or transmitted through it. Notoriously, hackers come to hotels. They connect to the Wi-Fi that's typically free. It's typically unlocked, and sniff all day, every day, just to pull out passwords, hijack sessions, do all sorts of fun stuff. Using a tool like ProXPN, the hacker can't connect to your stuff. They can't see your traffic. They can't pull out the information that they want from it. So it's one way to be far more secure.
Do they even know that you're there?
Oh, they know. They see the connection. They see the initial connection that's out. They see a tunnel has been created, but they can't see inside the tunnel. They can't see it.
And they can't see it. They can't see inside the tunnel because it's protected?
Correct. And
how is it protected?
It's encrypted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's usually anywhere. I believe in their case it's AES 256-bit encryption, and it creates a secure socket layer connection between my computer and their infrastructure. And now I'm using their infrastructure for internet.
but if I wasn't, if I turned the Pro XPN off, and then that they have access they have access as well.
If you turn it off. If you turn off Pro XPN, now you're using just the hotel network, and yeah, they can monitor and snoop and do pretty much whatever they want.
Okay, so then turning it back on. So basically, what you should do is you should use Pro XPN all the time. Then, not only necessarily when you're at a hotel or you're at a coffee shop and you're using a laptop, but in your home as well. Just use it because it affords another layer of protection that you wouldn't normally have. Would you?
Absolutely. I mean, actually both at my home and both at my office, we have it set up for a couple of different ways. You know, individual machines can connect and create their secure connection, their secure tunnel to the VPN network. Or if we really want to make sure everybody's secure, we can turn it on globally for the entire office using our routers, right? Just turn it completely on using our primary switch and our primary router. For home users, this is a perfect way to do a lot of different things. You know, depending on who you're using, depending on the configuration that they've got, you can avoid malware. You might get infected, but the information's not going anywhere because it's stateful. You can avoid people stealing your information by just watching and learning things. You can avoid that big brother feeling of your ISP just sitting there monitoring you.
Okay, and again, this all happens transparently. Once you're hooked up, there's nothing that you really need to know. Of course, unless when you get to a site and it says, "Hey, I don't know who you are," right?
Right.
That can happen to every banking site that I go to, and every HTTPS site that I go to.
It depends on the security posture of those websites. Google is good about it. Google does say, "Hey, you're connecting from a place that you don't normally connect from. I'm going to, is this you?" You know, you're going to get that from your banking sites because most banking sites use cookies, so they're going to be like, you're connecting from a different place, but I see a cookie that actually shows that you are who you say you are. Go ahead and log in.
Mm-hmm.
Some might actually kick you back and say, "You're not logging in from somewhere normal, we need you to verify." But most of the time, your banking site is going to simply just allow you to connect, and you know, it's going to check the information that you've got. It's going to go through the authentication mechanisms, and you're done.
Okay, so now when you say the authentication, I mean, you might ask me like what they like. For example, one of the banks that I use that asks me 3 questions, you know, and to make sure that I am
validation. Exactly.
So I'm going to have to answer this one. So I'm going to have to do all those things. What are you doing?
I'm leaning back in my chair and I'm touching my phone.
And we're getting to see everybody behind you. Okay.
Say hi, Dee. See,
Yeah.
right here is my daughter Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And over here is Dee.
Yeah. Hi, Dee. How are you? Okay.
Craig says hi.
All right. So
here, look. I'll get back in the way as the big black man. Now you can't see them.
There you go.
You can no longer see them. It's the black man firewall.
That's a very effective one too.
See?
And as I said, they're going to be on with us on Monday and talking about all this. And
I'll try and call in. I mean, I'll depending on what time we're going to be in the air, you know, I'll try and call in and say and get a couple of questions in and thank them for their awesome service and everything else. And it's a good product. I mean, actually, it might backfire. We might not want to tell the world about them because then they become popular and then everybody wants to use them.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, you know, because then people get more secure.
Yeah, but I still feel exclusive.
Charles.
It takes away the exclusivity. It's horrible.
So now they make versions for Windows and for Mac, and you say and for the mobile devices too.
I believe they've got an Android one out there. I'll have to check. Matter of fact, I can pull that up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, proxpn.com.
Mm-hmm. And you can see it.
Wait for it. It says free VPN with ProXP VPN. Now, the one thing that I always have to review with VPN providers, and I haven't had a chance to do it with these guys, is their privacy statement. And this is something if you're a paranoid user, you should probably take the time to actually review on these websites. Some VPN providers provide anonymity only to a certain point. Right, and you know you want to be anonymous online. You don't want people tracking your stuff, you know, so on and so forth. But you want to you want to make sure that if somebody, depending on who sends you stuff, that there's a limit to what they're allowing you, being allowed to get sent.
Mhm.
You know, it's it's not like I can call them up and say, I can. It's not like I can call them up and say, "Hey, I'm D. Smunch attorney. Give me all the information on this connection person." And yes, they do have it for both iOS 4.0 and higher and Android 4.0 and higher. So.
All right, so there it is. Now it looks like somebody's starting to use your bandwidth at the hotel because although I can hear you clearly, you're beginning to pixelate more. So maybe because people are coming back to the hotel now and they're settling and they want to watch all the streaming movies and everything.
I hope not. How am I doing now?
Well, you're still there, but you're pixelating.
I'm the bobblehead.
All right, so we are going to look forward to them, and that's going to be happening on Monday. Let's continue to do some more news. I got another news story here. Samsung, get this, grabs the tablet market share from Apple. I'm really surprised to read this.
Who grabs it from Apple?
Samsung. Yeah.
Oh, of course they do. Well, actually, here you're watching the video, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So wait. I'm just going to show you a little bit of these things. I want to show you just a tad bit. Hold on. This is going to be fun.
Well,
wait, there it is. I'm trying to hide the evident portions. So which are these?
One is a I don't know. I can't tell from the because it looks like an iPad, and the other one is a Samsung.
Yep. On one side, I've got the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, and in this hand, I've got my iPad Air. Mm-hmm. And remember, I was told you I was going to show you the comparisons between the two.
Yeah.
So, can you see it in the video?
Not really.
Oh, how about now?
They looked identical. See,
this is the iPad on top of the Note. They are now basically the exact same size. They're pretty close in form factor. You know, they're getting there. They're like Samsung has come dangerously close to being, identical to an iPad, aside from the fact that it runs Android.
Well, here, Samsung, according to the story, grabbed the tablet market share from Apple during the first quarter of this year. But the Apple retained the top spot in the otherwise slowing tablet market. Okay. Worldwide tablet shipments totaled 50.4 million units during the quarter, increasing by just 3.9% compared to the same quarter a year ago. The shipments rose at a slower rate than expected by IDC, which said the tablet category could struggle this year. Apple early this month reported a year-over-year quarterly drop in iPad shipments, and IDC studies reflect similar results. IDC counted Apple's iPad shipments as totaling 16.4 million. Okay. Well, basically, consumers are holding on to the existing tablets and are not upgrading. And large screen phones, also called phablets, are becoming more popular.
The phablet, yep.
Yeah. So evidently, Samsung beat out Apple in this first quarter.
Well, it makes complete and total sense. I mean, the iPad Air, while it is an awesome device, and I love it. It is fast. It is fluid. It does all the great things about it. It lacks some things that business professionals want, and Samsung is capitalizing on that.
All right. Coming up in the next half hour, we're going to have our London Minute from Patricia Reichel. Microsoft OneNote for iPhone. Mac receives major updates. All this is coming up and more on the Computer America Show. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 120,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy and major car companies filing for bankruptcy, Cover America Auto Care has announced revolutionary, inexpensive mechanical breakdown coverage that is now available to the general public to save consumers thousands on auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for drivers to call who own a vehicle that is less than 10 years old for a free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number is 800-483-2514. Drivers who are covered with this auto protection will not have to pay for a covered repair again. This is the auto coverage now sweeping across America at a fraction of what dealerships charge and is now available to the public by calling today. The number to call is 800-483-2514. 800-483-2514. That's 800-483-2514.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-866-663-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. 1-866-663-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. 1-866-663-MY-TV.
Hello there, this is your London Minute. Voice memo. The clock's ticking. You've got 72 hours. Welcome.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Ransomware. Malware expert Joshua Cannell from Malwarebytes was explaining to me that CryptoLocker gets in your computer via a genuine-looking, enticing-looking email attachment. The crooks like using the trick of the double extension attachment, like PDF.exe. To the trained eye, seeing exe would ring alarm bells. To the untrained eye, it would look like an important PDF file to read. If the infected file is opened, certain files are encrypted, very often the Office Suite files. Only access to a public key together with a private key will open them. CryptoLocker leaves a calling card, a countdown clock on the desktop. System restore may help out. Cloud backups are another potential lifesaver. Failing that, there's 4 days to decide whether to reward crime and pay up. They want $100, sometimes $300. After 4 days, the private key is casually deleted, ending hope. CryptoLocker, nasty, brutish, and short. For some useful links to CryptoLocker and its copycat ransomware cousins, see my Twitter feed. I'm at Computer Tweety. If you like the sound of the London Minute Voice Memo, the Talking Technology column, and you would like your company to sponsor me, get in touch via my website, loveyourcomputer.co.uk. This is Patricia Reichel for Computer America.
Thanks for that, Patricia. We always enjoy the London Minute here. Actually, Craig, do you know anybody who got hit by CryptoLocker?
No, I don't. No. Did not. Why? You got know somebody?
Well, duh. We've been chasing down things for CryptoLocker, and we've actually been trying to put together a tool suite that will make it so that even if you get hit with CryptoLocker, you might be able to survive it and get your stuff back without having to pay the $100 or lose all of your data. So we've been following that for a while, but it is one of those interesting things, and it brings up the antivirus, anti-malware. Don't click the link. It's funny whenever I get an email that happens to make it through that's from like my Xerox DocuScan printer, right? Like I don't have a Xerox DocuScan copy printer thing, so it's not gonna work. But it's .pdf.exe. It's really funny to see. And what we always do is we decompile the exe. And find the guy or the people behind it, and then what we had one time was we had one of my guys actually hacked his command and control node. And denial of serviced it. So he not only lost us, but he lost all however many other people he had infected on that machine and shut him down. And it was fun.
Wow. Well, during the commercial break, we actually lost connection to the network, but we're back.
Why'd you do that, Craig?
in this within Patricia Reichel, and I didn't notice it because I had just run out of the room for a moment to get take a quick break, and came back and said, "Oh no!" But it had already reconnected itself, so we are back. Anyway, Charles and I are doing computer technology news, brought to you by Slimware Utilities, and also the live video streaming that you're watching is brought to you by Otherworld Computing, quality products, expert support. Visit them at MacSales, www.macsales.com for any of your Apple needs. And we're going to continue with this story. Windows XP refuses to go down without a fight.
You stole my story.
Yeah. Well, the usage of Windows XP declined in its first month without support from Microsoft, but it's not going away anytime soon.
I don't know why it would.
Well, you know, and I'm going to continue with the story, but you know what this reminds me of? When even back to the early days, I remember when I had my Apple II, and then they had the two E and the 2C and all those things, and then they discontinued. Then they had the Apple. I don't know if you remember the Apple II GS. I don't know if you remember this. It was supposed to be the next generation of the Apple II. After the Apple IIe, it was the next. It's called the Apple II GS, and that lasted for about a year or so, and then that got discontinued because the Mac came out. But it seemed to be that there was a loyal following of users of that computer that lasted like for years after it had been abandoned by Apple, and I noticed that too. Whenever you have something that has been accepted for a long time, or you get people who don't want to let go. They want to keep it, and
don't stop XPing. Wait.
Yeah, change is very difficult for the human animal.
Yeah.
People don't like change.
I like pocket change.
Yeah, no, I mean I embrace change. I love things, but I too can find myself sometimes. Hey, it's working. Don't break it. Or something new will come out, and I'll say, I really like the way it was before. That happens. Anyway, according to the story, they had these two companies that were measuring and accounted for the different people, but basically, even with the different methodologies that these people use, the overall trends are the same. That Windows XP usage made a clear move downward in April, when Microsoft ended support on it. It's possible that people actually heeded Microsoft's warnings and upgraded to a newer operating system, though there are plenty of Windows XP holdouts as well. It will be a while before XP gives up its number 2, a spot behind Windows 7. But the good news from Microsoft is that Windows 8 and 8.1 usage continue to tick upward in April. The two versions of the modern operating system show more usage, greater percentage of gain, And evidently, Microsoft has a good opportunity to serve users by delivering more automatic updates, such as the Windows 8.1 update that arrived last month. If Microsoft can change users' expectations on how and when to update their computers, it may be able to avoid more XPopolis style events.
XPopolis.
A cataclysmic event, in the future. So that's it. Yeah.
XP was a good system. It ran for a long time. It was stable. People loved it. People stayed on it longer than any other operating system. And moving to Vista was a nightmare. 7 was a little less of a nightmare. 8 is horrible in most cases, especially if you're coming from Windows XP. So I understand why people would say it's okay.
Yeah.
To just leave it be, but it's really, you need to upgrade your security. You need to do different things. Don't dare use Internet Explorer, But if it works for you and it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I guess. Why don't you take the next story?
Okay. You ever use a Microsoft Surface?
Yes, I have. I've played with one. Yes.
What did you think of it?
Well, the first one I wasn't very impressed. Then the Pro came out, and it was a little bit more to my liking, but it's no iPad.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to also understand what it's for. It's meant to be a laptop replacement. It's
Yes.
meant to be the screen half of your laptop. And I mean, you that's the first thing I tell everyone when they ask me, which tablet is the best, what's the best hardware for this, and I always tell them it depends on what you want to do, and if you realize the limitations of what it's going to be out of the box, you won't get disappointed. And it's a lot of people have turned it into it's just a horrible thing. And I know Microsoft is blamed for it and everything else. And just in this article here from PCWorld.com says that Microsoft's Surface continues to lose money. Right? Microsoft Surface tablets continue to lose money according to Microsoft filings, a trend that doesn't show any signs of changing. In its latest filing, Microsoft disclosed that for the March quarter, Microsoft Surface tablets and accessories pulled in, now this is such a horrible loss, $494 million. But the company spent $539 million in chasing those sales. So they didn't really break even, but they got close. Yeah, which increased due mainly to a higher number of units sold, Microsoft said. The latest Surface revenue numbers were reported earlier by The Guardian. As the paper noted, Microsoft spent $932 million to receive $893 million in revenue for the December 2013 quarter. A year ago, during the first calendar quarter of 2013, Microsoft spent $616 million to generate $400 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Last summer, word of Microsoft's money-losing Surface tablets began leaking out when the company reported $863 million in Surface revenue for its fiscal year versus $900 million charged against its profits for discounting the Surface tablet. If nothing else, Microsoft's tablet line appears to be on the road to profitability, losing less money and generating more revenue than the same period a year ago. And understandably, Surface revenues was lower the first quarter than at the height of the holiday season. Still, Microsoft's presence in the tablet market remains a drop in the bucket compared to tablets like the Apple iPad, which recorded a, quote, poor fiscal second quarter, reporting only $7.6 billion in sales versus $8.7 billion for the same period a year ago. Put another way, Surface revenue is just 11% of the iPad quarter versus quarter. And when viewed that way, Microsoft still has a long road ahead.
You think it's going to go the way of the Zune?
Yes. Now, actually, I know business professionals that absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Like I met one gentleman who outright said to me, up until he got the Surface, he carried around a laptop, he carried around a tablet, he carried around, his smartphone. Since he got his Surface, he carries just his phone, like not even a smartphone anymore, and the Surface, because now he's got all of his office capability. Like he doesn't even have like a regular laptop. And I was like, man, that's a serious leap. And I never got around to this, and I don't know whether it does, but I hear that there's a dock that allows you to put that screen on a main screen, and now you've got almost a complete Windows experience from your tablet, and that is cool.
Yeah, it's you're talking about the Surface Pro now, not the
the Surface Pro. It's got a dock that comes with it.
Well,
like
the Surface, you couldn't run the full implementation of Windows. It was a special version. Yeah, but with the Pro, you run the full version of Windows. Yeah.
Now that's cool. I think that is awesome. I think that's if Ubuntu could come out with something like this, if the Linux community could come out with something like that, I think that would be epic. I think it would turn into a pretty hot product.
Well, so you'd buy one.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay.
I mean, I would buy one if one, my wife would let me, and two, if I found a need or even remotely liked Microsoft products. Now, like I said, if Ubuntu did it, if Ubuntu came out with a tablet like on the Surface Pro hardware, and I could dock that bad boy and it'd be just as powerful as one of my primary machines, I undock it and now it's my tablet.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a gap I would bridge. I would love it.
Well, you think it's going to happen?
Eventually. We got some ways to go.
Well, the story I just sent you was the first of a kind Kickstarter lawsuit highlights risk of crowdfunding. Only for the state of Washington, the Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against a company that raised more than $25,000 on Kickstarter, but allegedly didn't deliver the playing card deck it promised its crowdfunding investors. Okay. He filed what believes to be the nation's first consumer protection lawsuit involving crowdfunding on Thursday against Atelier Management, the Tennessee entertainment and artist management firm, and owned by someone called Ed Nash. The company's Kickstarter campaign, funded in October 2012, raised funds to create a set of Asylum playing cards, and the campaign promised the retro horror-themed playing cards, posters, and signed sketches from a Serbian artist as rewards. The Kickstarter campaign raised money from 810 backers, promised rewards with an estimated delivery date of December of 2012. The project hasn't been completed, and none of the backers have received any rewards. The company has not communicated with backers since last July. Okay. Consumers need to be aware that crowdfunding is not without risk. This lawsuit sends a clear message to people seeking the public's money. Washington State will not tolerate crowdfunding theft. We heard about this about a year ago. And evidently they're taking it to a lawsuit. I tried to get him to comment on the project itself, but the guy didn't immediately return a phone call seeking comment on the lawsuit. The company did not immediately return a message sent through its website contact form either. Kickstarter, on a frequently asked question page, said its terms of use requires creators to fulfill all rewards of the projects or refund backers. Backers have a legal recourse if creators don't fulfill their promise. If the problems are severe enough that the creator can't fulfill their project, creators need to find a resolution. According to the FAQ, the complaint filed in King County Superior Court seeks restitution of consumers as much as $2,000 per violation. Okay? I don't know if they're ever going to see that money. I really don't. Do you?
Nope.
No.
I mean, they had to sue to get restitution. If they had to sue to get restitution, do you think the person has actually got money to pay?
No. Especially if it was a company, they just make the company go bankrupt, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
You don't hear very much, but most of the Kickstarter campaigns and things like it are very, very positive, and we really haven't heard, unless this is the first of many that we're going to start hearing. Maybe Kickstarter scams. I don't know. Do you think?
Well, I mean, I know firsthand of a company that got up on Kickstarter. They racked up a huge amount of money, right? Huge amount of money. And what they ended up doing is like, how do I put this? The guys, the product that they're developing is an open source collection of tools that they're putting on. They're combining one piece of hardware, one piece of open source hardware with another piece of open source hardware, and it's really nothing special. Like there's really nothing special to this. But they got several $100,000 in Kickstarter money, and both of the guys drive BMWs and souped up cars, but their office space by itself is all secondhand furniture and nothing. It's irritating to see when people actually abuse things like Kickstarter, or Indiegogo or any of those other ones, but I still see the plus side of it. I mean, look at Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
Look at I think 3D Systems. Didn't they get started there? The 3D printed food people. I think they started there. It's really one of those. It's a double-edged sword. It's good and it has its evil.
Okay. Speaking of Oculus Rift, did you see that story where they're being sued for intellectual property theft?
I heard something about this.
Yeah. I think I sent you the story, but if not,
You did not send me that story.
Well, there's the story right there. Okay.
Oh, fine. There it is now.
Well, you're the big Oculus Rift.
I wouldn't say I'm an Oculus Rift fan. I would say more along the lines of I was interested. I'm not a huge fan of virtual reality. I really am not a huge fan of anything virtual reality. Like when we get to the point where people prefer to be in virtual reality other than real reality, we have a problem. And right now, now it's owned by Facebook, so there's no good will come of that whatsoever.
Anything having to do with Facebook is evil, is what you're telling me?
No. I'm just saying there's going to be more damage there than anything.
Okay. Well, according to this story here, it's official that the Oculus Rift is successful. Sure, it's not on the market yet. Sure, it's still a prototype. And sure, we don't even have a potential release date. But you can tell it's successful because somebody's upset it's making money. Evidently, a company called ZeniMax, owner of a game development subsidiaries of an ID software, has sent numerous letters to Oculus VR and Facebook's lawyers since the news of last month's acquisition, as you said, by Facebook. Now, the letter alleges that John Carmack, whom you might recall, joined up with Oculus last summer prior to leaving ID entirely in November. Improperly took ZeniMax intellectual property with him to Oculus Technology with the founder of Oculus VR, and he was able to transform his garage-based pipe dream into a working reality. Now, to be fair, ZeniMax isn't merely a soldier of fortune hell-bent on revenge toward John Carmack or angry it let Oculus slip through its fingers or whatever fantasy you may or may not have conjured in your head. ZeniMax does allege it tried to recover money for those intellectual property rights as far back as 2012. So the coincidence of Facebook's recent $2 billion offer is, of course, merely a coincidence, which is exactly what Oculus says about the matter. It's unfortunate, but when there's this type of transaction, people come out of the woodwork with ridiculous and absurd claims. I've seen that happen before. No, I'm not a lawyer, and I know what kind of case ZeniMax has here. The report alleges that Carmack wrote key software for the Rift that turned it into a viable product, as he was an employee of ID at the time. ZeniMax can lay claim to that software.
Actually, that's complete and total BS.
And how is that?
When you work for an organization, when you are an employee, and he said he was an employee, everything you develop, every piece of intellectual property, anything you design, belongs to the company that employs you, unless otherwise written in a legal document. Period. So this case is going nowhere.
Okay.
Where are you going? Nowhere.
Well, the guy Carmack said, no work I have ever done has been patented. ZeniMax owns the code that I wrote, but they don't own VR. And then later he said, Oculus uses 0 lines of code that I wrote while under contract to ZeniMax. And the article goes on to say, it's a mess regardless, an unsightly brawl and frankly a rather mercenary move on ZeniMax's part. We'll have to wait and see what kind of details emerge regarding Carmack's contract with ZeniMax, whether a suit will even make all of its way to court, and if this affects Facebook, the Facebook acquisition at all. And this is all for a piece of tech that's not even on the market yet.
Yeah, this is what the problem is now. This is awesome. I can see all the implementation and all the great ideas and all the possibilities that come with this, but what's going to happen here is they're trying to get a suit moving. Facebook's going to step in. Facebook's going to say, look, here's our lawyers. Even if Facebook doesn't directly combat this, a lawyer's going to come out and say, he was here when he designed this. This isn't part of this. He cannot legally say that this information is going to be used in any sort of way, period. And it's going to get thrown out. We're not going to hear anything more about this until they say it's thrown out, and we don't really care. It may not. It's probably not even going to go to court. And if it does, in the worst case scenario, Facebook's going to drop $1 million on this guy, and he's going to go away. They're going to drop a ton of money on him, and he's going to go away. Ton of money, literally. Someone's going to drop a house on him.
By the way, we got a thank you note from Brandon Hoffman, who was just on the show on the first hour. He says,
I did.
Yeah, he says I wanted to say thank you for having me on the show tonight. I really enjoyed the segment with you and Charles and Ben. I hope the information I provided was good for the show. I look forward to an opportunity to work with you and the team again. Have a great night. So there you go. Very,
Yeah.
very
And he and I connected on LinkedIn, and we'll stay in touch.
absolutely. Yeah, you never know where it might come out. I don't know if we have time for another story, so I think
we got time for one more. We got 5 minutes.
well, no, we don't. We actually have, but you know, so let's talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing. Okay, you're gonna be away.
I'm traveling. I'm going out to California. We're going to. Well, I'm coming back from my mini vacation, going into a lot of events, a lot of black tie things that we're going to be going to as a company. We get invited to these things, and it's pretty darn awesome.
But you'll be back on Tuesday, right? Exactly.
We'll be back on. Well, no. I think Tuesday is my event, so I won't be back until Wednesday.
Okay, so you'll be back on Wednesday.
Right, I'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday morning I'm having the dreaded dentist pluck teeth from my head. I'm going to the dentist torture chamber.
Yeah.
So depending on the level of medication, it's likely that I will not be back Friday evening, but I will be back about. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like I had a bad experience as a child with the dentist. like I think it was a cleaning or something, and like the pad slipped off, and he like nicked my gum.
Oh.
And, like it was horrible. It was like I remember I was a kid, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't nearly as bad as I make it out to be. But that's what I remember. Like I remember going, oh, pain, and then he said, okay, rinse, and I spit into the bucket, and it was like all blood, and I was like, oh! And I remember I almost passed out because it had been like the first time I had seen like my own blood coming from places, and I was like, this is horrible, and from that point on it left a bad taste in my mouth. But
little bum.
But this time I'm looking forward to it because my top left wisdom teeth has been bothering me.
It's going to relieve the pain.
Yeah, it's gonna get rid of it. I'm temporarily gonna have some pain, but I think it's gonna turn out okay. And they're actually putting me all the way under, like with an IV.
You're actually going to put just no happy gas, laughing gas?
No happy gas, no happy gas.
No.
I don't want happy gas. I want to be unconscious. And if they can give me some of the stuff they're going to put in the IV to sleep that night, I'd be down with that. Like, just give me a syringe, just a little bit.
That stuff is amazing because it also, though, like the one that I use called Versed, it actually has amnesia and you forget about the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what they're telling me. They're like what I think it's the same stuff. They're like it has an amnesia effect, so you don't want to drive and you don't want to do anything computer related immediately after the surgery.
Yeah,
it's like changing my passwords would suck.
What was that password I did just before?
Oh, stupid password recovery. Please tell me what your last password was. I don't know.
No, I can't remember. All I remember is this.
Maybe I'll call in and won't remember. So we'll definitely have to play that show back if I do call in.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, we'll do that. All right, so coming up tomorrow, we're gonna have Thematic, which is a really cool picture frame that you can use. No login required. It basically, you can have it, and it allows you to go social.
60 seconds.
Have a social experience and share the experience of the pictures and images on this frame. It's going to be cool. And of course, in hour 2, we'll have computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. Why are you shaking your head no?
I'm reading something.
So that about wraps it up. Have a great evening, and Ben and I will see you tomorrow night in Charles's absence.
Ben, have fun.
Yes. And
you know me. You know I will probably darn sure call in and harass you.
That's good. We look forward to it. You should.
Call in, harass you, and go back about what I was doing.
So until tomorrow night, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy.
Or limp or phallic or anything like that.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Say good night, Charles.
Seconds.
Good night, Charles.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and there we go, and we're out, and we're still on our Hangout. So,
yep.
Everybody, thanks again for being here, and it's too bad that the other world software, you just can't see any of this stuff. I don't know. Does it look like that to you on your screen too,
Yeah,
Charles?
it looks pixelated on my end. I think it's a broadcast. I started to turn it off, but I was like, maybe it's not bad on the outside, but we'll have to check the video there.
Yeah, I have to check it. All right, but we'll have that corrected and fixed, and I'm still waiting for my Logitech camera to be here. So let me think.
Do you want me to send you this lower third?
Which one?
The one that I have, the new one.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. And I can.
Well, I'll have to be back after I get back because I'll make the PSD. I'll put Craig Crossman and
yeah, sure.
The other world stuff on there too. So.
Okay, good. All right, good. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the hangout. Thanks for everybody for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And have a good one.
Bye, people.
Bye, people.